I'm Gerard from My Chemical Romance. I got into it because I was wearing a Poison t-shirt one day, and then I played Dungeons & Dragons with this older kid, and he saw me wearing this shirt, and he told me they were really crappy, and that I should listen to Iron Maiden, and I said, okay, and he handed me a Number of the Beast cassette, and then after that, that was it for me, Iron Maiden, nothing but Iron Maiden, and then I got into punk rock. I heard the Misfits for the first time, and that really changed my life. You know, Iron Maiden got me out of pop and changed my life, but punk rock, hearing the Misfits hearing punk rock in such a different way and so morbid and yet so like fantasy driven, hearing punk for the first time made me feel free. You know, that's what punk does to you. It makes you feel free. I didn't feel that way listening to metal. It was just weird. Mikey and I worked at a Barnes & Noble. He was in the music section, and I was a bookseller. And he ended up with a whole stack of Irvine Welsh books back there one day for some bizarre reason. And so he started thumbing through them. On the back cover of one of them, it said, Four Tales of Chemical Romance. And we had the name before we even had a band. And we'd always said to each other, we'd drive around listening to like the Get Up Kids, talking about how we wanted to be in a band. And he'd said, yeah, if we had a band, we'd call it My Chemical Romance. And so we did. We had played this bar. It was our third show, and Alex from Eyeball Records, who I had known for years, who actually didn't sign his friends' bands, just happened to see us, and because it was a bar we had all hung out with called the Loop Lounge, and he saw us play and said, all right, I usually don't do this, but do you guys want to do it? And we said, okay. And then Major Label break actually came. Well, we got a major label attention as soon as we finished the indie record, and people get on airplanes, flying out. It was a little overwhelming, and we wanted to just be a band, so we said, could you guys maybe leave us alone for like a year and let us figure this out, and we'll know if it's right for us or not to even sign a major, and they respectfully did that. And one day we decided we wanted to do it, and we made the calls, had the meetings, and we didn't want there to be some bidding war, because we didn't want it to be money driven, so we narrowed it down to just two, and then met with both and just picked the best out of that. Songwriting is approached a couple different ways. It's basically somebody being anybody comes up with some kind of riff or something, and then they bring that into the room and say, I got this I've been working on, and then they'll play it, and then somebody will say, well, I could play this under it, and then the song will either initially speak to me and tell me what it wants to be about, or then I have to find it vocally, which is I freestyle all the lyrics and just see what happens. A really good example of that is, you know, what they do to guys like us in prison, because all the lyrics that ended up in the final version were lyrics that were just freestyled. They're pretty close to the very first time I had freestyled it, and as soon as I heard Ray play that riff, I knew I wanted it to be about jail. And Frank also helped make it feel that way with his underlying guitar parts, and Mikey with the bass going, you know, and it worked. So I'm really proud of that song. I would say probably one of the most stressless, successful records to make. It was a success to us even before it sold any copies, because it did what we wanted to do, which was evolve and you know, grow up a little bit whilst not losing what we had when we started. It was the first record we were able to make in which we already knew who we are. We just had to go really put that down on tape. Howard was great to work with for song structure, especially, and vocal performances he got out of me were just, you know, I can't imagine anybody else getting those out of me. He just figured it out. The psychology, he has a psychology that he works in, and he let Ray and Frank really do what they wanted on guitars, and so that's why it kind of feels like two different worlds colliding. And it really is. So it was fun, painless. We delivered it pretty much sight unseen, and label loved it. So Howard would encourage good vocal performance because he'd learned how to isolate you. I'm a performer. I'm not a studio singer. I'm not a studio musician. I wasn't ever a trained singer before the band. I'm still not. So the only way I learned how to sing was perform in front of people, and he took all those people away from me by basically putting me in an attic. And it took me 2 weeks of singing to really adjust to that. So much that I re-recorded half of the vocals. I had only recorded 6 songs vocally, and then we retracked all 6. I remember people being a little nervous at that point. But what happened is I just got this epiphany in this attic, and then I learned how to sing without any reverb on my voice to make it sound live. We stripped it down to the point where I just heard myself and what was actually coming out of myself loud and clear, and that was it. And just compression and nothing, no effects on it to cheat, you know. And he I don't know, I know he knows a lot about music, and I know a lot about music, meaning like classic bands and stuff, so we could reference a lot of things like together, like Bowie or T-Rex, and we were very much on the same page about certain glam artists, especially. He's a glam guy. Like when he was a teenager, he listened to that stuff, or a kid, and so we were very much on the same page about stuff. Lots more touring. We are going to be we're finishing a couple like one-off things, like this being one of them for Alternative Press, for their anniversary party we're very excited about. And then we are going to Dallas, then we're home for 5 days, we go to Germany for a week, come back, get 5 days off, go do the entire Warped Tour. After that, headline, more Europe stuff, and probably make another video sometime in there. And then it's kind of up in the air. We'll probably tour more and make another record.